It's Misha. I'm here to talk to you guys about why we're sick and how we can get better and the root cause of almost everything that we suffer from today. And that one thing is called insulin resistance. So, this morning had a few hiccups in it again. That seems to be my life at the moment, but here we are. So, you guys, if you're suffering from anything above, and there's a number of other things we're going to go over in a little bit, but I want everybody to understand that in today's society, I see so many people who are suffering, who just are going to doctors, to nutritionists, to all of these people to try and figure out what's wrong with their health, why they're sick, and why they're not getting better. And what I want you to understand is that it all links back to this one thing. So if this looks like you, if you're struggling, if you're tired of being gaslit at the doctor, of having people tell you that you're just lazy and that you don't do enough or care enough, and you feel like you do, and it's depressing to you that this is what's happening and this is what's being said and this is how people are treating you, hang out because I'm going to explain. Yes, we have some responsibility. I'm not taking all of that away. But the problem is the food that we've been being given is vastly different from what we're supposed to be getting into our bodies, and it's making us sick. Does it mean you have to be a Puritan? Does it mean you have to go on some journey and be a vegan or do that whole like carnivore where I eat only steak? No, it doesn't mean any of that. What it means is that we just need to understand that the absence of certain nutrients in our food is making us sick through the action of a hormone called insulin. So when we come down to most of the diseases, disorders, overweight, PCOS, erectile dysfunction, all of this stuff that we're suffering from, it comes down to hormones more than it comes down to calories. So we want to break that down, and I want you guys to ask questions. I would love for you to just give your input where you need help. This week I'm going to be talking, I believe I'm talking about, because I've been running late, I believe I'm talking about how this all affects your mental health. So if you're having depression, anxiety, it can affect Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, yes, autism. So all of these things can be affected by insulin resistance, and a number of them can get better by addressing your insulin resistance. And I've seen it time and again. So if you're having any of those things, I know that most of the people that I deal with, and let me know if this is you, where it just seems like everything is overwhelming. We have so much information, we have so much we're expected to do, and yet we just don't feel like we have the energy. We end up depressed, we end up anxious, we end up with panic attacks, we can't sleep at night. Now our blood pressure is going up. All of these things are related back to insulin resistance and the fact that we have too much insulin in our bloodstream. So I'm going to go over in a minute how that happens, why that happens, and then we're going to talk about how to make it better. So this is me on the left-hand side over here. 2 years ago, I was pushing 270 pounds. My health was falling apart. My blood pressure was high. My memory was bad. I couldn't remember anything. I felt like I had brain fog every day that was just brought me to tears. I had leg cramps every morning. I had sleep apnea. I had all of the things that you can imagine, joint pain and muscle pain and headaches, all of that. I was on a hunt and seek thing to find what would help me, and I had tried, I'd done keto for 10 years. I had gone vegan for a while. I had done gluten-free for a long time. I did the medical medium, and yes, look at you guys. Am I going to say berberine doesn't work and those things? No, but they weren't working in the way that I needed them to. And so in desperation, I stumbled on the protocol that I use now, and it's absolutely changed everything for me. I feel like I have my health back, and so do these young ladies up here, as well as hundreds of other people. So we're going to talk about what this is happening. I would love to know what you guys are struggling with. Is there anything up here that you're struggling with or have questions about? Because most people don't understand how this all relates back into insulin resistance, and why I dare even say that insulin resistance is at the root of all of this. So let's dive in a little bit. I already mentioned that food is, and a number of you guys are just coming on. So our food is vastly different from what it's supposed to be. And I'm not about to tell you that you have to drastically change your diet, that you have to go on some chicken, broccoli, and rice diet, that you have to do any of those things to get your health back. I was thinking in the shower this morning, and we talk about food freedom, and I really believe that's true, but it doesn't mean that you get to have a dumpster diet, okay? There's a difference between having food freedom and having a dumpster diet. So we all know what the dumpster diet looks like, and we all know that it's not good for us, right? But at the bottom of this is this food that we're getting, and even when we're buying raw organic food, it's not as filling as it used to be. It's not protecting us in the way that it should be from fructose and from glucose. So it's because fibers have been stripped out, phytonutrients have been stripped out. So what do we do? Because it's the food we have available. Unless you're, living up in the mountains growing your own food, what are you supposed to do? Well, I supplement to put that back in, and I go on about my day. This weekend I had pizza with my grandson. Probably not the best choice with my missing gallbladder. I know it wasn't, but it was nice to have pizza with my grandson and not worry about what it was going to do to my health outside of that one issue. But you guys, you don't have to be on these strict, weird diets. And people ask me all the time how to eat. So I'm actually working on a cookbook that's just like down to earth food that doesn't require special tools or weird ingredients. So I just want to make it simple for people. But what we need to do is understand that our food is turning into glucose too quickly. Hey, Max, how are you doing? This man taught me so much, and he's been part of my journey. So if you guys aren't following Max, go follow him. And then Janice, good morning, hon. Being on birth control got you insulin resistant. I'm sorry, I didn't see that, Monet. So Monet is saying, is it possible that being on birth control got you insulin resistant because you never had this problem? Any dysregulation of hormone can definitely affect insulin resistance. I don't have a very specific answer for you because it's not one that I've dove into, Monet. But how about I write it in my little log here of things that I'm going to be looking up this week and see what I can find. But in my connected dots world, I would say that when you're on birth control and that's messing with your hormones, that it's going to mess with your insulin as well. So everything that we're dealing with, we have to understand that our hormones are there to do different things in our body. And when we have that dysregulation of hormone in one place, it's going to affect the hormones in other places. So let me write that down because that's a good question, and I really want to look that up. Hold on a second. Oh. Okay, and then all right. Monet, I'm going to screenshot this really quick here. All right, there. Now I know who to respond back to or tag in that video. Okay, so thank you, Max. So guys, when we look at our food, and right now, by the way, I want you to know we have been taught to eat, and we've been taught to eat way, way, way too much. Guess who drives that message that you need to eat every 2 hours? That's the food industry. And so what happens if you're not eating as much is they're not making as much money. Isn't it crazy the amount and different kinds of food that we have and how many of them are snack foods we're being told to eat between our meals? And then we wonder why we're sicker now than we've ever been. So we understand that we don't need to eat this much. Max got me into some extended fasting, and I've been playing with that more. I did a 5-day fast last month. I'm now doing an every other day fast, which has been going amazing for me. And I will dive into that. I think I should probably start posting videos on that journey so you guys understand how that feels. Today is my 4th fasting day, and tomorrow will be my 4th feeding day. And I can kind of just give like updates if you guys like on my other videos of what that's looking like. What I've already noticed is that I'm burning fuel much more efficiently. My intestinal system is resetting drastically, and that it is changing how my mornings look. And when your gut is, and I'm going to be doing a lot of videos on that too, though, when your gut is changed, it changes everything. There was a scientist I was hearing this weekend talk about if you took one slice of our gastrointestinal system and the microbes that it can carried in this one thin slice of our intestinal system, the microbes in there would be more than any person, than the accumulation of any person on the planet Earth today. And he said that ever lived. That's one thin slice. We have so many microbes in our gut, and when we're not feeding them, when we're not getting in the proper nutrition, we start to get ill. And we get ill because in part of that microbe dysregulation, but we get ill in a great part because of this insulin resistance. So when we're eating these foods, and fiber is important. I was also listening to another doctor who, people will say, oh, you can do the carnivore diet, you don't need fiber. And there have been some scientists who are stepping forward saying, regardless of what else you're doing, you need fiber in your gut. You need that in your gut for that microbiome. So that's part of what I do. I am not as good at getting in a rainbow of foods as much as I would like. So I choose to supplement with a real food product. And we're going to go over that in a bit. But when we have this food that's turning into glucose too quickly, and then we're being told to eat every 2 hours to get our metabolism burning, you guys, that's a lie. It's the biggest lie we've been sold since Ansel Keys told us that fat was bad for us. So this whole eat every 2 hours, eat before you get hungry, that's a load of crap, and we shouldn't be paying attention. There's no science behind any of that. There is no scientific paper that suggests that that is going to make your metabolism speed up. What actually makes your metabolism speed up is this healthy fasting and fiber routine. In fact, my friend on fasting, and is it fiber and fasting, Jen, she's doing this every other day fasting routine as well. We're doing it side by side. So amazing information. But you guys, we need to get our system to clean out. If you just keep bringing stuff into your home, just continually walking in with dirty shoes, bringing in new clothes, just bringing in stuff, and you never clean your home, what's your home going to look like? That's what we're doing to our bodies. We're bringing in all this junk into our bodies, and we're never cleaning it out. We're never giving it a chance to clean up and look all sparkly and new and feel amazing and great. And then we wonder why we're sick. So fiber, yes, and fasting are two keys to this whole thing. So like I said, I supplement with the fiber. We're going to go over that. But insulin happens to be produced in our bloodstream when our food turns into sugar or glucose in our system far too quickly. And why that's happening is because of that absence of fiber. Fiber is the thing that slows all of that down so that it's not hitting our bloodstream like a freight train on steroids. So if we're not having enough fiber in our system, and a variety of fiber, I'm not just talking about psyllium husk because that alone doesn't work. Then we start to have this too much sugar in our system too quickly. And then we're doing that every 2 hours. And for some of us, it's even more often than that. And then our body says, well, if there's too much sugar in my blood, I need a break. And so it starts to kick out insulin, tells the pancreas to produce insulin so that insulin can grab a hold of that excess glucose, which is just energy. Okay, what I want you guys to understand is glucose is energy in our system. Food is giving us building blocks or energy when we eat it. And it just depends on how that energy breaks down is how it acts in our body. Right now it's breaking down too quickly and it's overloading our system. So we put out insulin, and now insulin's up here high. And then instead of letting the insulin come down through these practices of fasting and not eating every 2 hours, now our insulin is trained to stay up here all the time and it never comes down. Why is that important? Because insulin blocks fat breakdown, insulin encourages fat storage, and then insulin, when it's high like that, when anything is high, starts to create this system where we start to become resistant to it. And Rachel, I didn't miss your message, but I did neglect to respond. She's starting a 7-day fast next week. Let me know how that goes. And Rachel, you can drink your tea for our purposes on that fast. It does not, there are some people who will say it can disturb the gut reset with the caffeine, But as far as your autophagy, as far as the rest of the things that are going on in fasting, I found that the tea has been working really great for me. Plus, it keeps you feeling full, and so it is a form of a green tea, um, and it will work. Also, I've done the matcha tea, Rachel, during the fast as well, and that's been really amazing. In fact, this is a combination of the Unamate and the matcha. I will have this all day today. Maybe some bone broth on my fasting day for this every other day fast. Okay, so guys, insulin, when it's high, creates this resistance in our body. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, if insulin is a tanker truck carrying fuel to different storage places or different places that need the fuel, and those places start to get resistant, it means they're not taking up the energy that they need. So now you think about eyes, like my eyesight was going bad. I have reversed about 10 years of damage off of my eyes. I am regrowing in hair. My hair is thicker, fuller, longer than it was in my 40s because of the practices that I'm doing now. And I've lost 50 pounds. I've gotten rid of my IBS, unless I get a hold of high amounts of sugar or seed oils. And I'll be posting a video up on seed oils today, so watch for that. But all of those things start to get resistant to the insulin. So they're not getting energy. So your bones are not getting energy to regrow. Your ligaments and tissues are not getting energy to regrow. Your other hormones are not getting what they need to be able to be produced. And then your cells start to become inflamed. And so now in an inflamed state, when they puff up, when they're inflamed. So think of not insulin receptors, but insulin receptors, thyroid receptors, leptin, ghrelin, all of your hormones receptors as these little fingers that stick out of your cell. And when your cell gets inflamed, it starts to push out, push out, push out, push out, push out. Now, these receptors are not as receptive, so they're not able to take up the hormones that you need. And all of a sudden, your cells are so inflamed that even if you have the right amount of thyroid hormone or leptin or ghrelin or progesterone or estrogen or testosterone, you're not able to uptake them. And then we even talk about things like dopamine and serotonin in the brain. So that's how all of this starts to happen. And yes, it does. It creates bloating. It creates low energy in your body because that energy is going through you too quickly. And then it's trying to be stored by this insulin that's out here high. Now, when the rest of the cells have become resistant to that insulin, what's happening next is it's got to store it someplace because you're continuing to eat. You're continuing to put in imperfect foods. And I'll talk about the 3 macros and where you're going to find fibers and whatnot, whether you're doing the protocol I do or not, just a minute. But it has to store that someplace. And so the fat storage in the fat warehouse in our body is our fat cells, or the energy warehouse is our fat cells. So when every other cell is resistant to this insulin, then it starts storing that energy in your fat cells. Now you start to become overweight. So if the insulin is always up high and is never allowed to come down because you're never taking a break from eating and you're continuing to eat foods that convert into glucose too quickly and not getting the proper amounts of fiber in, you're just going to be stuffing more and more and more in your fat cells. And that's why we have so many obese people more than ever, and why we're seeing more obese children, why we're having diabetes and whatnot, because insulin resistance is the precursor to diabetes. So it goes like this: too much glucose in the system from eating too much and eating improper foods. Too much insulin comes out now. Now, when there's too much insulin for too long, it becomes insulin resistance. Now, when insulin resistance has been there for a long time, and most people are insulin resistant and don't even know it, then after a while it starts to show up as prediabetes. And then it becomes diabetes, and now you're in trouble. But by the time you realize that it's prediabetes or diabetes, you've probably done damage to your liver, to your kidneys, to your heart, to a number of other systems in your body. So I talk about insulin resistance. We talk about why this is happening, because I don't want people to be sick like that in the end like I am. And we'll talk about that in a minute. How long have I been on the system? 9 days in the last 3 days is okay. So your blood sugar has dropped. I don't understand the lady 3 days is that. I don't understand that part. So Brandy, I have been doing the system for 2 years now. My blood sugars in the morning are normally like 98 to 102. I do have, because I don't sleep like I should, which is another piece of this. I have that dawn phenomenon where my cortisol is up and it's a little elevated. And we can talk about the dawn phenomenon if anybody wants to know why your blood sugars are higher in the morning right away than they are a few hours after. If anybody needs to know that, because you're testing your blood sugar right away when you wake up and it's high and you're like, but I thought this was supposed to work. Well, it is. And I can go over that. But so 2 years I've been on it, but my blood sugars are well regulated. My glucose levels, my blood sugar levels go between 60 and 120, which is normal. As we cycle through the energy in our body, that's normal. The last 3 days, your blood sugar has dropped. So is the blood sugar drop, I need to know, is it the kind that you are wanting, or are you saying that it's dropping too low? Because there's an answer for that too. So you guys, when your blood sugar should not really exceed of about 120, maybe 150, depending on how many carbohydrates you've had after a meal. But about 4 hours later, it should be dropping back down to around 100. And if that's not happening, you're insulin resistant. And that's important to know because of all of these things. So this insulin resistance does lead to thyroid problems. It is a cause of erectile dysfunction, and getting those sugars in your system under control and this hormone insulin under control actually helps with men's testosterone levels and their thyroid or their erectile dysfunction. It also, on the other side, for ladies with metabolism, it affects your PCOS. A couple of weeks ago, I dove into those subjects. So please go back and look at those videos and see how this is happening to you. It does have to do with how your testosterone is converting into estrogen in your system, and insulin resistance is impeding how it's supposed to happen. Okay. Okay. So, Brandy, so what's happening with you is that what is too low and what's happening when it drops low? Are you having fatigue? Are you having migraines? Are you having feelings like you just want to pass out? Because I want you guys to understand too that when we talk about blood sugars, like I said, mine will go down to about 60, and that's normal. So what happens inside your body is, as you start to burn off the sugar that's available, it will drop, it will drop, it will drop, it will drop. And then when your body says, oh, we're kind of getting to a low part, it will start to pull sugars from your body and you'll start to see an increase. I did a 10-day fast and I checked my sugars every couple of hours, and I noticed that in the absence of food, when I was more fat adapted and not insulin adapted, my blood sugars would go up to about 120 with no food and drop back down to about 60. And then as soon as it hit about 60, it would start to climb back up as my body's pulling sugars from my body or energy from my body in stores that need to go. So with you, with insulin present in your system, what is likely happening is this. You have all of this insulin and you've trained your insulin to be high, and it takes a while for that to start to normalize. So when you eat now and you're not spiking your insulin every 2 hours and you're not giving more energy, insulin is still up there and it still is that glucose and it's delivering it to your system. So now your blood sugars drop a little. And until you start to get this balance between and get that insulin level to be like, I don't have to be this high all the time. I don't have to be that bully on the playground anymore. They're not eating all the time. They're not eating all the improper foods all the time. Then the insulin will start to come down and normalize, and you're going to start to see that those huge drops in blood sugar start to regulate out. So when you have high levels of insulin and you eat, your insulin is going to grab that and it's going to deliver it as quick as it can and get it out of your blood, right? That's its job. So when your insulin is constantly high, after you eat, your insulin's like, oh, I gotta go because they're gonna eat again. They're gonna have a snack, or they're gonna have a dessert, or they're gonna have whatever. I gotta get this out of the bloodstream. So what happens? Your blood sugars fall. When you start to get the insulin down, then the insulin is not so hyper vigilant, and your cells are taking up the sugar more normally. And so those, you don't see those big spikes and lows in your blood sugar. By the way, that's called reactive hypomia, where insulin has just done too efficiently of driving that sugar out of your bloodstream. And now you have this gap where there's insulin that's high, waiting for more sugar, and you have this low because it delivered it all. Okay. And then when you start get the insulin down, your body will start to learn to pull from other places to bring that blood sugar back up. The liver stores a lot of blood sugar as well, or sugar, glucose as glycogen, and it will release that and get it back into your system until this all starts to regulate, and it will continue to do that for a while after. But I don't know, like, again, if you're not having those symptoms, if you're going below 60 and you're having those symptoms of headache, fatigue, body aches and pains, you just feel like you're going to pass out, that's too low. But you guys, your blood sugar can drop to about 60 in the absence of that, and it's healthy. We don't need the high amounts of sugar in our bloodstream all the time. That's the unhealthy part. So in a fasted state, your blood sugar should be around 98. They will start to drop. If you're around 2 o'clock, and Brandy, I don't know when you had your first meal, that would be good to know as well. But those things normalize over time. When you're highly insulin resistant, that's going to be normal at first. So just pay attention to those cues. I would encourage you that instead of, so I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist, so check with your doctor. But for me, what I would do is something that's going to bring my blood sugar back up if it's too low without spiking it quickly, because then you're just adding to the problem. Okay. So when you're doing this, when the old model of treating diabetes, right, was when your blood sugars drop, you got to run and get some high glucose food in you and get your sugars back up. Well, that's exacerbating the problem because you're starting a fasting stage. So the question is asked, why does blood sugar drop during sleep? So I'm going to go over this timeline really quick to tell you what's happening with your food. Okay. So what will help the blood sugar drop is, are you doing a lot of protein? You guys, proteins don't spike your insulin as much. They will keep your energy more stable. So when you're eating, this is how you should formulate your food, right? You want fiber first before you eat. That's going to slow down the delivery of the carbs. If you're getting in simple carbs in your first meal, that's part of the problem as well. So you want to get, yes, complex carbs, and start ditching, especially in that first meal, start ditching the things like breads and pastas and opt for whole foods, and maybe a little bit of the healthy fruits that I really like, by the way, in the afternoon are going to help you. Pears is one I've really adopted as I've been learning from some doctors who talk about nutrition as medicine, because they're higher in fiber, they're lower in glucose than many other fruits, and they have this amazing component called chlorogenic acids, which are great for your metabolism and great for your mental health. So if you can put a pear in at the end of your meal, so fiber first, then prioritize protein, then fill with fats, and then have your carbs at the end of the meal. So like a pear or berries would be great at the end of your meal. Okay. Fiber first would be like what you're doing, supplementing with the balance first, or like a big salad that has a wide variety of vegetables in it. That's going to help too. Hypoglycemia, and you take metformin. So metformin is, I'm not as versed on metformin. Out of all of the weight loss diabetic drugs, that's the one that metabolic doctors seem to like the best. I am not a proponent for medications. because it causes problems with your system. So yeah, Brandy, I hope that helps. So do that, eat in that way. My first meal, I was in my story yesterday, but my first meal is generally um, on a 16/8 fast. It's a couple of eggs and some no nitrate sausage or bacon, maybe sometimes some steak, depending on what's in my fridge. And then I will have like avocado or some cheese, and then a pear at the end of that. So that's my first meal of 2 meals. So if you look at that meal, it's very high in protein, and then there's some fats in there. And then at the very end of it, I will have that pear, which gives me a good, healthy carbohydrate. Now, with that, my blood sugars stay pretty solid. So try that. I don't know how you eat, but you guys, things like cereal and oatmeal are going to cause that hypoglycemic crash because they're causing your glucose to spike and then drop again. Yeah. So Terry, are you on the protocol? It is a great, I mean, it's a great meal. I am not a vegan, you guys. I tried that for about a year, and my genetics do not like that. I tried it for all the right reasons, and I just felt like I was not thriving on veganism. So there are people that do, and to you, great. But for me, it wasn't working. I like a balance. So I like to get in as much vegetables as I can. Um, and I could do better on that, but I love to get in high amounts of protein. That seems to do well with my body. My second meal is like I'll have steak, like peppered steak. So it'll have bell peppers and onions and maybe tomatoes in it sometimes. You guys, I live alone. So whatever vegetables I buy for the week, they're going to be recurrent in my meals throughout the week. I'll be finding things to cook throughout the week like that. I do eat a lot of chicken. I try to eat salmon or ocean water fish once a week. And for the omega-3s, I do supplement with omega-3s because I feel like we're not getting enough in. D3, D3, you guys. Almost all of us are deficient in D3. Our metabolisms do not work, and our mental capacity is not as good when we don't have good amounts of D3. So I'm going to kind of go off track for a second, and we're going to talk about that because it's so very important to us, and yet most of us are not getting it because we're in places like this. Now I have this big window next to me that the first thing I do in the morning is I open those blinds at night when it gets kind of creepy, like people are looking in because there's a busy, I'm in a condo complex, but I will close them. But the first thing I do in the morning is open them so that there's this big dose of light coming in. We do not produce D3 without light. So that I listened to a doctor who was a specialist on that when I was back in Idaho, and it's interesting. Yes, we want sunscreen when we're getting a lot of sun, but we've gotten to this point where we're starting to use sunscreen. Oh my God, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get some sun. I got to have some sunscreen. The sunscreen is blocking the parts of the sun that you need to convert to D3 in your system. So now we have a deficiency. Okay. So sunscreens are great if you're in intense sun and you're getting a lot of sun. But for the most of us, there is no need, according to this doctor, to put sunscreen on consistently when we go out for a little bit. It's actually making us sicker because we're not converting that D3. We're not getting the components we need. Sun time is amazing, and it's one of the first things you should do every morning is get outside, which I will do after this, and I'll go for my morning walk and get some natural sunlight. These lights above me here are not going to create D3 in my system. With that D3 absence, my metabolism is not going to be right. My mental health is not going to be right. I'm going to notice fatigue and inflammation throughout my body. But understand that D3, you have to have K2 with D3 in order for you to metabolize it correctly. So be careful of the D3 that you're getting in. The best source is to get it in naturally. But if you're above the equator or way below the equator, you're just not. And in today's society, we're just not getting enough. Okay, so make sure you're getting D3 in. That's super important. All right, I agree, Terry. It's just so important. Okay, so insulin resistance is happening. It's making us sick. How do we get past that? You guys, I wrote an ebook that's free to everybody. You can go to my profile here on TikTok, tap on my picture, tap again, and it will open up a page. I'll show you guys all that page here right now that has my landing page on it. I'm sorry. it was interesting to me last week that that somebody was all upset because I don't have a link. I'm like, yes, I do have a link, honey. You just don't know where to find it. So let's find that. So if you go to my profile here on TikTok, you're going to see this, right? You're going to see my picture. You're going to see the link right below there. That link is where you want to click, and it's going to take you here. You'll see that there's this free ebook, and we're going to go over the steps in that ebook for you to start taking care of your insulin resistance. Like the ketone checker that I use, the books that I read, the things that I use for my absence of a gallbladder, it's all listed in there because I've had so many questions about that. I do have a group on Facebook that you can join, and then here's where you're going to order it if you are interested in the protocol, which I haven't even gone over. So let's start to go over the protocol as soon as I can figure out myself here. All right, so that's where all this information is, you guys. I want you to have that information. The 6 simple steps that I use to help overcome insulin resistance are these. So you want to get that fiber in first, like I said, and because I don't, well, something on my shirt today and it's making me buggy. Get fiber in first before you eat. Every time you eat, that's going to slow down the delivery of carbohydrates into your system, and it's going to give you a better chance of bringing your insulin down. The protocol that I do reduces that blood sugar spike by 27% with 1 packet, and the insulin spike by 13%. It's $5 a day, Trini girl. And if you just go to those links, it's going to show you right there what all the costs are, and I'll go over that in a minute. But I want everybody to understand what the protocol is and why. First, we're going to talk about a little bit about fasting and the 6 simple steps. So fiber first. Prioritize protein. You guys, protein, when we look at macros, I'll come back to macros. Protein is one of them, but it spikes your insulin about half as much as carbohydrates do. So you want to get in protein first. It's going to give you building blocks to build muscle tissue naturally, and it's not going to spike your insulin near as high. So now we're not having this problem, right? Then you want to get in fats, and you don't want to fear fats, but not those seed oils, vegetable oils. Those are causing inflammation and a number of things. I will talk about that if anybody wants to know why I'm not a fan of seed oils and why so many metabolic specialists are not as well. We'll go over that. But that does not include things like coconut oil, avocado oil, extra virgin olive oil, butter, ghee, duck fat, and the animal fats that are naturally existent on your meats. Those you should be able to eat without problem. Okay, those are not causing the problem. They're actually healthy for you. Cholesterol is coming from your body converting sugar into not a dietary cholesterol, a physiological cholesterol, and the dietary cholesterol is not causing the problem. So fats. Then you want to limit your carbohydrates, and I'm not just talking about things like, especially the things like the refined carbohydrates for sure, but a lot of people are eating way too many carbohydrates, and in the absence of those really great fibers, they're having the same problems. Then you want to do some time-based eating. So that means some 16-8 fasting is what I did for 2 years until recently when I started playing with fasting more. But 16-8 fasting, I'll go over what that looks like because you're giving your body a rest from that insulin. So we need that rest from insulin in order for our bodies to start to normalize and have a chance at healing. So that insulin resistance starts to happen when we have that insulin too much all the time. So we want to get that down. And that can only happen through some fasting. Okay. Then I want you to move your body. So like I said, I'm going to get up and walk today. I've talked about Qigong, and this week I've been trying to find some of those places that I do some of my Qigong practices from. By the way, Max Reeder was on here earlier. He taught me more about Qigong, and so please go follow him. He has some great programs on all of that. He's a great source of information. The man is amazing. But so fasting and move your body are the last things. And when I talk about move your body, I'm not talking about crazy intense workouts. Like I used to lift weights heavily. And at that point in time, it worked for what I needed, but it's not necessary for me today. Am I going to go back to lifting weights? I'm working back into that. But right now, I'm just doing some functional movement, which I think I would encourage everybody to focus more on functional movement than just on the muscle building. Okay. So macros, and then I'm going to dive protocol. Macros, you have carbohydrates, you have fats, and you have protein. If it's not a fat or a protein, it is a carbohydrate. So yes, that means all your fruits. Yes, that means all your vegetables. Yes, that means all of those things that you love to eat. That's what we're talking about when we talk about a carbohydrate. So understand that. And a number of those things have been stripped of the fibers that they should have in them. And that's why we're getting sick, because everybody's thinking they're eating these really great things. But the food industry is jacked with our food and made it so that it doesn't process the same way as it should. And now we have problems. So the protocol is that I drink a tea in the morning, which is what I'm drinking right now. That tea gives me energy. It gives me mental clarity. It doesn't give me any crashes because there are some components attached to the caffeine molecule in this that occurs naturally in this tea leaf. But it also shuts down my hunger. It helps me burn fat for fuel. It helps me kick up ketones in my own body when I'm in a fasted state. And so this helps keep me full even when I'm not eating. That's how I have made it through so many fasts this year, very easily, because I utilize the tea. Tea is available or able to be used on a fast. So that's what I start my day with. Now, about noon, I will have a meal, and what I do before my meal is I will have a fiber supplement that is more than just that. It has phytosterols, it has vitamins and minerals in it that was specifically designed to help lower my blood sugar and put back what's been stripped out of our food so that we don't have all of these problems. And so this I mix up in a bottle like this, give it a couple of quick shakes and drink it down, wait 10 minutes, and then I start to eat. And that's it. So if I chose to have a hamburger for my first meal, I could do that. I don't have fries and stuff much anymore, but I do once in a while. By the way, now that I've changed and understood what's happening with my body, I get really sick when I eat those toxic foods. You guys are sick all the time, and you're wondering why. It's the food we're putting in us, and we don't even know it because we're so sick that we don't notice the difference when we eat the foods that are making us sick. When you start to clean that up, you will be very aware of what is and is not good for your body. So what's good for your body may be very different from what's good for mine. So you eat the foods you love, pay attention to your body, and understand what's making you ill and not. But that's all I do is pre-meal, or I do a tea in the morning, and then I do a pre-meal drink before my first two biggest meals of the day, 10 minutes before, and that's it. And this, by the way, I love because that's what goes in my purse every day. I take it with me when I travel. Next Saturday, I'm going to be traveling down towards DC from here, which is only about an hour and a half away, but I'll be there all day. So I just throw some packets of this in my purse and off I go. And then whether I stop at the gas station and buy water or whether I take this filled with some water, I'm good no matter what I get into for the day. So that's it. That's the protocol. 30 tea, 60 of the pre-meal drink a month, and you get them for about $5 a day. So about $1.60 a packet. It's cheaper than soda. It's cheaper than all of that. And it's actually building health. So again, if you want it, you go to my profile, you tap on that option. The first option that comes up on my landing page is where to buy it. And you'll see, you get a choice between lemon or lemon ginger for the tea, and you can have that hot or cold. And then you get your choice between, right now, between an apple flavor or orange for the pre-meal drink. I would just leave the lemon. I always suggest people start with the lemon because it's the lemon ginger. If you're not used to having ginger in your drinks, it might be too strong. If you're somebody who loves ginger, that's great. But I would start with the lemon, and then I would do the apple right now because it's a limited time flavor, and you can get the orange anytime. So $5 a day to change your health, and give it 90 days. You guys, this is not a quick fix overnight. I'm going to jab a needle in my stomach and get better in 2 weeks, or lose all the weight I want in 2 weeks, or whatever. This is giving your body back its health. It's sustaining natural health in your body. So give it 90 days. And if you are not at a point where you can commit to yourself for 90 days, don't do it, because you're going to waste your time and your money if you cannot say, I'm going to give myself 90 days to see if I can get all of this better with a natural system that's not tearing my body down. Okay. A couple of other notes on that, and then we're going to go right back into the insulin resistance piece. It is in the PDR, or the prescriber's digital reference. It is prescribable. Some insurances are covering it because it is prescribable. You'll see a big note in the PDR that says not endorsed by the FDA. Well, it's food. So if you go to the grocery store and you buy a bag of lettuce, or you buy an apple or a pear, you don't have a big FDA approved label on it. That's the difference between this and the other things you find in the PDR. It's prescribable, it has science, and it has clinical studies behind it, but it's food and it's not medicine in the term that we see medicine is. I see it as medicine, the best kind, especially when I listen to doctors like Dr. Lee, who talk about food as medicine. And Dr. Fung, who's written the obesity code, the diabetes code, and the cancer code, and treats diabetics in his office in Toronto all the time with fasting, says you cannot fix a dietary disorder with medicine. It has to be fixed where it starts, with the food. And so that's what we're doing. So there's that. Does anybody have questions about any of the conditions above? I know I haven't covered skin tags and dark skin patches lately, acid reflux and sleep apnea. You guys, it all does link in. If anybody needs me to explain any one of those things, I'm here to help explain that so you can understand why this is important to you and start to understand what may be happening with you and that this may be you. So if you're having things like headaches, migraines, body aches and pains, that can be a sign of insulin resistance. You work out so much, but the slow thyroid is such an issue, can't lose any weight. So I would, to Trinidad, we have ways to get it there. Trini girl, you would have to get a hold of me. There is someone on the ground in Trinidad. We don't ship to Trinidad. You'd have to do like a third party where you ship it to them here in the US and then they ship it down to Trinidad, but there's ways around that. We are open with the system in over 30 countries worldwide, and we have distribution centers near each one of those areas. But Trinidad is one of the ones that we're not as available in. We do have a number of people there utilizing the protocol already, though. So just talk to me and we'll see what we can do to get that straightened out for you. So with the thyroid, so if you're insulin resistant, you can be working out a lot and still be insulin resistant. That was me. Like, I was a world champion athlete. I worked out 6 days a week, 3 hours a day. I had muscle on me, but I wasn't able to lose weight. I think I was gonna find some pictures of me when I'm competing, because it shows I'm still chunky, right? I still have the belly and all of that, because I was still having insulin resistance problems, even though I was doing keto and working out drastically. In the presence of insulin resistance, it does create a dysregulation of your thyroid, and the inflammation in your gut can cause your thyroid to start being inflamed and slow down as well. I haven't done a really in-depth video on that lately, but know that I have a number of ladies who have thyroid. I was one. I had Hashimoto's and hypothyroid. And I have a number of other ladies who have Hashimoto's, hypothyroid, or just hypothyroid, who have gotten better, who have lost weight, got their energy back, and all the other symptoms start to get better as well by using the protocol and addressing this insulin hormone. Okay, so yeah, if you are still having inflammation in your body, and understand, you guys, I love workouts, but when you're working out a lot, because you're probably working out a lot because you're trying to lose weight, that can cause too much workout, can cause inflammation in the body because it's causing trauma. So I've been around the block. I've done all the stuff, right? But I do more gentle workouts now. I'll go for walks. I do, like I said, more qigong, shiatsu type of workouts. I'm going to start doing some light weightlifting again, but I'm also trying to be very cognizant. I've stepped back from weightlifting because I know me. If I go start weightlifting and my mindset isn't right, I'm going to want to start pushing and start trying to do stuff that's going to cause my cortisol level to go up. And that causes a dysregulation with your thyroid as well. And cortisol also causes dysregulation with insulin resistance. Insulin resistance causes dysregulation with cortisol. Um, okay, so any other questions, you guys, this morning? I really want to try and answer what's happening with you and help you understand how this could be affecting you, because I honestly, it's really heart-wrenching for me to go see people and know that they're not getting go see people. When I walk out on the streets, when I go anywhere and I can see signs in people now, because I've learned so much, it's really hard for me not to just go, yeah, and tell them all of these things, because I really, at my heart, want everyone to start feeling better. So I'm here to help you understand it. If you choose to do the protocol, amazing. I'm going to be there to support you. By the way, I didn't talk about that. When you do the protocol and you buy it through my link, then you get me. You get my if you are putting it on subscription, so you can do a one-time purchase. But again, if you're going to commit to 90 days, just do the subscription. You can cancel it at any time. Then you get free shipping on that. So you're saving $5 on the product when you do subscription or auto ship, and then you get free shipping. So if you find a place, I know there's several, like in Florida, that they get their get the shipment to, and then they drop ship to like Jamaica and Trini. So it's free shipping to that point, and then whatever that cost is for that mail service from Florida on is what you would pay. So Francis, I'm going to put a link over here for you on Facebook and YouTube. That will take you right to, it doesn't show up when I do it on TikTok, because they lock that down. I mean, they're serious about not wanting you to go to other platforms, so they never let my link show. But you guys have it right in my profile over here on TikTok. On Facebook and YouTube, there's the link. Okay, so, and then Francis, I was going to finish that. I am so all over the place this morning, you guys. The happier I get, the more like I'm like this butterfly that just like goes to whatever the most beautiful flower is out there. So I apologize, but that's me. So you get a 90-day money back guarantee. You get a satisfaction guarantee. You get a quality guarantee, and you get a low price guarantee. Plus, you get me for coaching. I will reach out to you. I have people text me all the time and ask me questions, and I respond back. If it feels like something we need to hop on the phone with, I make time and hop on the phone with you. But you get that support, and there's no cost for any of that support. And then the tools and the creations that I make, like the cookbook that I'm working on, is going to be available for free to my people on subscription. So as an ebook. So there's a lot of benefits to that. So there you go. You have dysfunctional thyroid from a multinodular cystic goiter and insulin resistance. Oof. So I need to look into the multinodular cystic goiter, because my mind always wants to take everything back to insulin resistance, because almost every time I do that, I find a way that it does link back. But a cystic goiter and insulin resistance, I would be really, really interested to see how that would work for you. And look, Angel, for me, I was at a point when I started the protocol that I felt like I had to do something, right? And so I chose to go ahead and start it, because I was like, what else do I have to lose? It's got a 90-day money back guarantee, so I'm just going to give it the 90 days and see what happens. I was shocked by everything that got better for me. Um, and again, it's food, so it's not going to interrupt with any medications you might be on or other therapies you might be on. So I'm actually very, very curious right now to see if doing the protocol and getting your insulin resistance under control doesn't affect that goiter. Because in my non-doctor but science curious mind, I have to connect the dots to think that it would, but that's my thought on it. Okay, anybody else have questions before I hop off today? And I apologize. I hope that the sound is better over on Facebook and YouTube. I ended up going out and buying a microphone because people were saying that the sound was disrupting. And I love my iMac, but there are a few little glitches with it. So I hope the sound is better over there today and that you guys have been able to hear everything. So I do try to go Monday through Friday live around 8:30, between 8:30 and 9, and then about 3 o'clock. So if you have more questions or you have somebody who might be able to benefit from some of this information, anybody who's suffering and not gotten answers before, I'm not here to diagnose. I'm just here to help you understand what could be for you, and then you get to make the choice for what you're going to do with it. Francis, yeah, I would love to talk to you. So Francis says he really wants to learn more of my techniques. Been fasting a year and nothing. So guys, when I'm talking about fasting, for 2 years, I just did a 16-8 fast. Great results with that, right? Did fine. Everyone else up here is just doing a 16-8 fast. Me, 59 years old, lots of inflammation. I had PCOS. I had thyroid problems. I had my gallbladder removed. I've had multiple surgeries throughout my life. I've had head injuries. I've had over 130 inches of scarring across my body from trauma. That creates a lot of inflammation in the cells and in the body throughout. And so I started to realize, and I want you guys to understand too, the longer you hold on to fat, especially the subcutaneous fat, the harder it is to get rid of. The visceral fat starts to go away pretty quickly. It's brown fat, it's interior. There's lots of blood flow through that, and your brain is not cueing you to store that fat anymore, so it burns off to a normal level, and then it starts working more heavily on the subcutaneous. But subcutaneous fat, like for me in my arms, no matter how much weight I lose, my arm size really doesn't go down because you'll see that it's more lax, but there's just not enough blood flow to some of those areas. So the only way for me to attack some of those areas, as well as some of the dysfunction in my liver, is to do some extended fasting. So I was playing with like 3, 5, 7, and 10-day fasts over the last year. And recently I started this every other day fast. For me, I have ADHD or ADD. And so there's some impulse dysregulation for me. And I find that it's easier to not snack, not have breaks in my diet if I'm not focused on eating. So for me, if I, like today's a fasting day, and so Francis, this is what I'm doing now. And I'm saying this because I think that you may benefit from this. Again, check with your physician. Some people will say only to do it once a week. Some people will say you can do it consistently and see great results. My friend Jen at Fiber and Fasting and I are both doing this. So I'm going to fast for an entire day, which gives me about 36 hours of fasting. I did some videos on what happens to your body during fasting. So between hours 20 and 36, my body is really ramping up with fat burning. It's really ramping up getting the junk cells out of my body. It's really ramping up the state of learning to be more fat adapted. So I ate my last meal last night about 7 o'clock. And then I won't eat again until 7 in the morning tomorrow. So today's a fasting day. I'm still having the tea. The interesting thing is I'm not doing this right now, but the pre-meal drink doesn't even break your fast. It actually helps push you further into that ketogenic state where ketones are up, and you have this action of getting rid of the junk cells even more. I am also trying to give my gut a reset, so I'm trying to not add too much in that causes my gut to work too hard, and the fibers will cause the gut to start to activate. So 36 hours of fasting. Now tomorrow I can eat whatever I want. For me, guys, this is for me. I'm not saying anyone else has to do this. For me, understanding that after hour 20, between there and especially hour 24 and 36, those next 12 hours, I'm doing a lot of cleanup in my body. I, at my age, want to do that. I, with ADD, want to do that because it gives me control. I just know today that I'm not going to eat. I can make it one day without eating. I know that tomorrow I can eat whatever I want. So instead of just having 2 meals tomorrow, I'll probably have 3 meals. I won't pack as much into each meal. So in the morning, I'll probably do one of the shakes that I've been developing, which is really high in fats and protein, has a little bit of carbohydrates, and gives me everything that I talk about: fiber, fats, and protein in that first meal. That's easily to digest, easily digestible after that 36-hour fast. And then I'll go back to something like I was doing before, where about noon or so I'll have like my bacon and eggs and or sausage and eggs and pear, something like that. And then dinner time, like there's so many options for dinner. I made that Marry Me chicken the other day, and adapted that recipe for my book, that just keeps it high in fats, low in carbohydrates. There's never any added sugar in the recipes that I'm creating, and they all taste amazing. So that's what I'll do tomorrow. I'll have 3 good meals. I think I have some steak to eat up in there, so maybe it'll be steak and eggs for breakfast. Does that sound like a life that's too hard? No. But Francis, you might adapt something like that. I am still, so tomorrow when I have the 3 meals, I will still have one of these before each meal. So I'll have 3 of these tomorrow. So one before my breakfast, one before my lunch, and one before my dinner. Anytime I eat anything, I have one of these. Okay, that's what's kept me healthy for 2 years without rebounding into what I was. You can't really see it on this graphic, but the guys over on YouTube and Facebook can. I'm not the one in the middle. I'm over on the edge, and you can't see that picture. But anyway, that's it. So a good blood glucose daily average is going to be between 60 and 120, and you're going to see it move throughout the day. Of course, when you eat, within 2 hours or so after you eat, it's going to spike. About 4 hours later, it's going to start to come down. Okay, so 2 hours after eating, it should be at its highest. That's when you really want to kind of check it. And then about 4 hours after you eat, it's going to start to come down. So it should be around 120 to maybe 150 after you eat. I would try and keep it closer to 120. And then it will start to drop back down. Now, the longer you go without food, the lower that's going to drop. And it's okay for it to drop to 60 without having, in the absence of having that extreme fatigue, like you're going to pass out or headaches or any of that. That's a cue that your body needs to eat. Also, I know Janice is doing a longer fast. One cue that I'm going to give you: when you're fasting long term, you're going to still eliminate, right? I remember the first couple of times I did it, and I'm like, it made sense, but I was still shocked because I'd never fasted like that before, how much I was still eliminating. Well, you're going to eliminate when you're fasting because you have all these junk cells or cells that need to go away, and they have to go out of your body somewhere. When that starts to become consistent and urgent diarrhea, you need to start refeeding, and refeeding is going to be with foods that are easy to digest and fats. And I will try to do a video on that sometime soon too. But anyway, watch those things and make sure, even in the fasting stage, that you add some Himalayan salt or sea salt to your water, to your drink. You need electrolytes. Don't let yourself get depleted of electrolytes. That's a danger when you're fasting. So, but in a normal fast, I've talked about it a little earlier, but when I did a 10-day fast this spring, and I started measuring things like my blood glucose and my ketones, and just tracking how my energy was and all of that stuff. So one thing that I noticed was, besides the consistent elimination every day, surprised at how much was coming out of me, even though I hadn't eaten for days. Um, was that my blood glucose started to regulate to this really nice, instead of having crazy spikes and lows and jumping all around, it was almost as if it was just this really nice curve that just repeated. So my blood sugars would drop to about 60, and when they would get down there, then it would cue my body, ketones in my body. We'd start pulling out more fats and fuel from other areas in my body, and my blood sugars would go back up to about 120, and then they would start to slowly come back down, and it was just this nice wave of between 120 and 60, and I never had any problems. Okay. I don't have an answer for that. During heavy exercise, what's the proper glucose level response? So in exercise, you should be utilizing glucose up. You guys, and another cue for you, you for most people, you don't need to pre-feed your body for a heavy exercise, especially when you're using a tool like this one. So what's going to happen if you use this, which I learned to start using this before exercise, is it allows me to start burning more fat for fuel. Okay, so I want to be in that state, but I have plenty of energy. I actually work out longer and better when I utilize this as my pre, intra, and post workout. Now you're asking about a glucose response, but I'm taking it a little bit someplace else. So understand that when you're done working out, your muscles are wide open, like these big Pac-Mans all throughout your system. That's when you want to get in your food, because as that turns into glucose, and you want to do that within 2 hours, probably within an hour after working out, now your muscles are wide open and insulin sensitive. It's going to help you with the insulin resistance. It's going to help with the blood sugar spike, and it's going to help you with weight loss and you building the muscle that you want to build, because now it's receptive. So the glucose level response, I would have to look at that because I've not ever looked into that, so I can't give you a real response to that. Okay. And I don't want to just like throw things out there that I don't understand. Okay. Any other questions from you guys this morning? And then I'm going to go head out on my walk. It's a beautiful day out there. I put this big old sweater on because I was freezing this morning because I keep my house cold. But yeah, you guys just get up and move, get some sunshine. You see it over here. Sunshine actually helps you with that D3, helps you with your metabolism, helps you with your wellness score as far as just feeling good and getting rid of brain fog and all of that. You will feel so much better if you stop being locked in a house with all the dark curtains and in an office where there's no light but this artificial light. Just a few minutes of that every morning and you'll start to feel much better. And if you want to check out more on that, check out Dr. Huberman. He talks about it a lot. Yeah, you're so very, very welcome. You guys, that's what I'm here for. Those of you who choose to do the protocol, just go to the link. When I see those orders come through, I start sending out texts. I send you a video that explains how to do the system. I'll be doing that this week as well. But yeah, and then you just get the support that you need. Look, if it's not for you in the end, then that's fine. This is not, you have to be in the mindset that you want to do something like do these 3 drinks in a day and understand that it's going to help your health. If you can't do that, it's probably not going to help you. It just, again, though, I'm going to do some more videos on those other drugs and how damaging they are. You guys, has anybody seen the Netflix special Painkiller? Because I feel like that these drugs that are supposed to be for diabetes, the rush to use them for weight loss and diabetes, that it's going to end up in a painkiller, the OxyContin type of situation. Just, if it does, remember that this crazy lady on TikTok said that a few years ago, and hopefully you don't go down that road and damage your body, because there's so many better ways, and those drugs are not addressing the root cause. So people who've done those or gastric bypass surgery, I deal with a lot of people who've done gastric bypass surgery and then years later have gained all their weight back, but now they have other health issues. So why not just really address the root cause and take it from there? Okay, guys, I will see you back this afternoon about 3 o'clock. Have a beautiful morning. Thanks for hanging out with me. Love you all. And bring your questions and bring your friends with questions. And I will do my best to answer what I can for you. All right. Have a good one, guys.